Hey you guys, it's Mrs. Fravel. This is a demonstration presentation on a life process for you guys to use as a model for when you make your own presentations for your assigned life process. Today I'm going to talk about the life process of reproduction. Okay. What is reproduction? Reproduction is the creation of a new organism. It's the process of making new organisms. And ultimately, what reproduction is all it is passing on genes. DNA is kind of a selfish little molecule and it wants to go on forever and it wants to improve its survivability. And that's what reproduction is all about, is just helping DNA go on forever in new bodies. Okay? There are two types of reproduction. There is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is when sperm and eggs, we call those gametes, remember, when they are made by the process of meiosis, and then a sperm and an egg are united to create a zygote. And the zygote is the very first stage in a new organism. Okay? A zygote goes on to become an embryo becomes a fetus, and then when a fetus is born, it's considered to be a baby, I guess. Most animals and plants reproduce sexually. Plants make both eggs and sperm. There are some animals that also make both eggs and sperm. In higher animals, we get two separate sexes. We get males that make sperm and females that make eggs, and they have to meet up in order for those cells to combine to make their new offspring. Okay? The other type of reproduction is asexual. That takes one parent. It's easier, but you get less genetic diversity, and this happens in plants. Plants do it a couple different ways. They can make this little runner that makes a new plant coming off the original plant, and they can also just make little buds off the edges of their leaves that fall off and become a new plant. We also get that happening in animals called sponges. Yes, they are animals. And then there is another type of animal asexual reproduction called parthenogenesis, which is pretty cool and pretty weird. It's when a female animal can make babies without ever having met a male, and that happens in some sharks and some reptiles. Okay. How does reproduction work? Well, the first step is fertilization. An egg and a sperm have to unite to make a zygote. That zygote will eventually become a new separate organism. Fertilization happens in two ways. There's internal fertilization and external fertilization. Another word for external fertilization is broadcast spawning, and this is basically the gametes are just distributed, released from the bodies of the male and female into the environment, and everybody hopes they find each other. This happens in invertebrates like corals, worms, mollusks, and sponges. We also do have fish and amphibians doing this. Plants also are external fertilizers. They just distribute sperm, which is called pollen, that yellow stuff that comes off of flowers. That's sperm, it's pollen. It's generally what you're allergic to if you have hay fever. That is carried on the wind or by a pollinator like a bee to the ovary of another flower or the ovary of the same plant. Okay? How that looks in animals: external fertilization, again, the eggs are just released into the water. And then the sperm is also released over those eggs into the water. And then internal fertilization, the male has to place his sperm inside of the female's oviduct or her birth canal, where it will go on to her ovary to fertilize an egg cell to become an egg. Okay? Eggs are formed after the sperm cell fertilizes an egg cell. There are two different kinds of eggs. There are non-amniotic eggs. These are laid by the female in the environment. These are laid by invertebrates, fish, and amphibians. Again, they usually are the result of broadcast spawning. These have to stay in the water, otherwise they dry out because they don't have any membranes around them. They're just kind of a little ball of goo. And then the other type of egg are amniotic eggs, and those are important. Amniotic eggs and amniotic membranes are there to surround the embryo. They're filled with water. They keep that embryo from drying out. So these are eggs that can be laid on land or kept in the female's body to develop. This is used by reptiles, birds, and mammals, and was a pretty big deal in evolution. This is an image of the amniotic egg. So the embryo is right here. If you've ever eaten a chicken egg, this is what it looks like inside if you weren't eating it. It would have a little embryo attached to a yolk sac, which is the food supply, and then we have the white of the egg, and then the membranes and the shell. Okay? The eggs that you eat just don't have this part. The yolk sac is the big orange part if you're eating an egg. Okay. Now there's 3 different kinds of mammals. Mammals are kind of special because they do all of this internally instead of laying eggs, except for this one group of mammals. So there's 3 kinds of mammals. There are monotremes. There are 5 species of monotremes. They're ancient, and they are duck-billed platypus, like this guy. And then there are a couple species of spiny echidna, which are super cute. They all live in Australia, New Zealand, and New Guinea. These guys lay eggs, the eggs hatch, and then they act like regular mammals. They feed their babies milk from the mother's body. Marsupials are the second group of mammals. These guys do give birth to live babies, but they are very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? They are underdeveloped. Okay? The babies are born, they crawl up the mother's body and into her pouch, where they then attach to a nipple and develop from there. And then the third group of mammals are the placentals, and these are the animals you probably think of when you think of mammals. These are harp seals. I don't know why that's an example, probably just because I love harp seals. Humans, dogs, cats, lions, giraffes, horses, all of those animals that you think of are probably placental mammals. And how that works is inside of the female's body, there is an organ called the uterus. It's a muscular organ, and the placenta is a temporary organ that forms when the mother is pregnant, and it attaches the baby to the mother. And all of the embryo and fetus and baby, which are the 3 stages, it receives all of its nutrition from her via this cord, the umbilical cord. If you have a belly button, which you probably do, that's where you were attached to your mother's uterus when she was growing you in her uterus. Okay? Now then, reproductive structures and organs. Okay? Sperm are made in animals in structures called the testes. One is called a testis. The stamens and anthers are the structures in plants that make the sperm. And then ovaries are the organs in a female that makes eggs. Okay? Again, broadcast spawning is one way to get those cells to find each other. Other major structures are a pouch in marsupials, and then of course that amniotic egg or amniotic sac that's so important for keeping embryos safe. Okay. Now plants also have to reproduce, okay? And in flowering plants, the structures that you know as flowers and cones, those are actually the reproductive organs for the plants. And eggs get fertilized, egg cells in plants get fertilized by sperm through a process called pollination. Pollination is just the transfer of pollen from the male reproductive structures to the female reproductive structure. Okay? After that happens, okay, so sorry, this picture's kind of, oh well. So inside of a flower, at the base of a flower is the ovary, and at the top of the flower are the stamens, which produce the pollen or the sperm. Now, either the pollen falls right from that same plant's stamen into its ovary, and then it will fertilize the egg at the base of the ovary, or it'll blow in the wind or be taken by a bee to another flower to do that same job. And it has to be, of course, the same species of flower. But once that happens, inside of the flower's petals will die, and inside here is that little tiny fertilized seed. Okay, that's what a seed is. It is an embryo. And inside of that ovary, the ovary then will turn into a fruit. It will concentrate sugars from photosynthesis into this kind of fleshy, sweet fruit with the seed and the embryo inside. And then that fruit falls off of the plant. The fruit nourishes the seed, and the seed starts to germinate. It grows into a new plant and starts that all over again. Okay. Whew, okay, now then, no system in a body works alone. The reproductive system interacts with these three systems mainly in placental mammals. So the circulatory and respiratory system carry away waste and carry nutrients to the developing offspring. The excretory system, again, carries wastes away from the growing offspring. And then the endocrine system, hormones are what control all of the reproductive process up through fertilization. Okay? Your hormones tell the body when to release gametes and also how to support the embryo while it grows in the mother's body. Okay? Form and function. So you guys will want to touch on this in your own presentations as well. Why are organs in a system built the way that they are? Why? Okay, so when it comes to the reproductive system, if we look at specific parts of it, they are built to facilitate what they do, form and function. Okay, so with gametes, specifically with sperm, their function is to find an egg cell, get to an egg cell. So sperm are built to swim. Okay, so they have this long tail that whips back and forth. It's powered by this little neck that is filled with mitochondria to provide that energy. And then at the top of the sperm and the head of the sperm, you have the nucleus that has the genetic packet ready to deliver to the egg. And at the very top, it's got this protein cap that dissolves through the egg to fertilize it. Eggs themselves are designed to be resilient to protect the embryo growing inside. Okay? Eggs are shaped the way they are for a reason, to be protective. And then all of these membranes act as little pockets and balloons to keep the embryo safe and warm. And then specifically in placental mammals like humans, the female uterus is an organ that is made of some of the strongest muscle in the world, in the animal kingdom. And that muscle is designed to squeeze and contract when the baby is ready to be born. It squeezes the baby out of the mother's body through the birth canal. So it is made of this ropey, strong muscle. And its form, again, tells you its function, or supports its function. Okay? All right. Fun facts about reproduction. Male seahorses are the ones that carry the babies. They do it backwards, seahorses. The female will actually internally place her eggs inside the male's brood pouch, and then he grows the babies inside of him and gives birth to all of these tiny baby seahorses, which I love. The largest plant seed in the world is called the coco de mer, and it can float across the oceans. These are a type of palm tree. And then these guys, these are called whiptail lizards. All whiptail lizards are females. It's very, very rare to find a male whiptail lizard. They reproduce parthenogenically. They make babies without ever having come in contact with a male. They're all female. They have weird chromosomes. They have too many chromosomes. They're very weird. This has also been seen in sharks and also in Komodo dragons. Sometimes, if needed. Okay? All right, that's it. Here are my sources. Your source page will be more than this. I used our biology textbook. I looked up everything on whiptail lizards on this article, and then everything else, you guys, this is stuff that I learned over the years of being a person and a teacher. I hope this was helpful. Please make sure you complete the note guide / worksheet on the Google Doc that goes with this and submit it for your assignment with this presentation and for your own group presentations. Again, use the template, find the information I've put on your project templates, and then make your own note guide or worksheet or quiz to go with it. Okay? All right, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks, guys.